This is One on One. She's back by popular demand. Everybody wants to talk to her. This is Dr. Christina Greer, Associate Professor of Political Science at Fordham University. How are you doing?
I have no complaints. It's so great to see you.
We're doing the show at the end of 2019. It'll be seen in 2020. Put things in perspective. The impeachment process will play out. We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. How fractured, I'm just going to start with it right away. Yeah. How fractured are we as a country?
We're in desperate times. We probably haven't been this polarized.
Ever?
Maybe not
well, there was
since
the
the
mid-1800s.
But, because facts have been called into question, because reality has been called into question, because people are sticking to their ideals and not necessarily communicating in ways that we have in the past, we're definitely fractured. And I don't see an easy road out of this situation.
Let me get even more focused here. As we do this program, literally, Senator Kamala Harris has dropped out of the race. We're not a news program. You could catch our public television news programs to find that out. We don't know what this Democratic field is going to look like. We do know that President Trump intends to run again. We'll see what happens in the House and the Senate. We can predict. How difficult is it going to be for the Democrats to win the presidency if, in fact, the president survives this process?
Right. There are a few...
With that field.
Right. There are a few things the Democrats need to figure out. There are multiple factions in each party, but the two main factions in the Democratic Party are those who feel like we should just right the ship. Trump has wronged the ship, and we just need to, gain control and set sail in the right direction. There's another faction of the Democrats who believe the entire ship is corrupt, and we need to burn that down, rebuild a brand new ship, and then set sail. Those are two fundamentally different ways of thinking about politics. We also have to remember, our intelligence agencies have told us time and time again that we have had foreign interference and that it most likely will happen again. And so we have to also recognize that besides the institutional barriers that people face on a local and state level to actually vote and participate, we're in a moment that George Washington warned us about in 1796 in his farewell address, where he said, two things that we can't have if we want our democracy to thrive and survive is we can't have an executive that ever sort of deals with foreign entities and is susceptible to the whims and wishes and desires of a foreign power, and we can't live in a nation that has hyper-polarized parties. We've never mentioned parties in the Constitution, but George Washington was keenly aware of the dangers that a hyper-partisan system would present to the nation. And we're in this moment right now where it seems as though there's some foreign influence in our democratic process, and also we have two parties that just don't see any sort of eye to eye.
Christina, you do a lot of media, national media, cable networks, et cetera. You've been with us many times. What is the role of the media in all this?
Well, I think that they're complicit in a lot of ways.
We are.
Yes, indeed. I've been I've chastised the media quite a bit.
What are we doing wrong?
There are quite a few times where the president has lied. It took us over a year to say the word lie. It was initially, he misspoke, or it was a false truth. Sometimes a lie is just a lie, and we have to call it out. The media has been very slow to call out lies, and oftentimes the media will repeat the lie and then say, well, we don't believe it's true, but we're just going to keep saying it because he is the president. So I think that there's this deference and respect to the role of the presidency, which should be in existence in this nation. However, we're not dealing with a president that we've seen in the past, and I think oftentimes we replicate the things that he says that should not be spread far and wide.
Loaded question. You studied race. You understand it in a way that most don't. For those who are supportive of Donald Trump, who say it has nothing to do with race, it only has to do with economics, it has nothing to do with his immigration policy, and finally, nothing to do with what comes out of his mouth, it's his economics. Do you believe those who vote for Donald Trump on some level, that racism is part of that?
Yes, I do.
Even if they say it's about my taxes,
right,
it's about the stock market.
Right, and so, but you can say that you can look at a child in a cage and say your taxes are worth more than that. And I'll sort of paraphrase what Andrew Gillum said, right? I'm not saying that Donald Trump is a racist. But the racists think he's a racist, and they support him. I'm not saying he's a Nazi, but the Nazis think he's a Nazi, and they support him. So at a certain point in time, when you are consistently siding with the racists and the Nazis and all of the sort of the ills of society, where just a few years ago we said we didn't want anything to do with those people, and now you're proudly standing side by side with them and saying, well, it's because of my tax cuts, then you need to really ask yourself, what it is about your circumstance that makes you so comfortable in siding with this group of people in this moment in history.
You're scared.
I am. I'm scared because for the first time, my parents said they're scared. My parents grew up in the segregated South, and they thought that a lot of the hard work that they had done and all of the trials and tribulations they had gone through were a thing of the past. And so they made a lot of sacrifices so that their daughters could have a totally different life. And they're seeing some of the patterns from the 50s and 60s that they went through that they thought were sort of in the dustbins of history, repeating themselves, and people proudly repeating them out in the open.
Silver lining?
Silver lining.
Don't make it up if you don't think there's one.
No, I always have one.
That's why I mean,
this is the beauty of, having the privilege to teach the next generation of Americans. I mean, being a teacher, for me, yes, I'm a professor. That's the research part of my job. But I take very seriously the privilege of being in a classroom. I think Generation Z is fantastic.
You do?
I do. I am so excited and inspired by them. They're growing up in a very difficult time. They recognize they're growing up in a very difficult time, and they're curious, and I think that they're ready for the charge.
Dr. Christina Greer from Fordham University. Google her, check her out, read her stuff, and see her on other networks. But we are thrilled to have you here on public television, even though you're right around the corner. In the Lincoln Center campus anytime. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
This is One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. This is the WNET studio, the Tisch studio. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center, the New Jersey Education Association, New Jersey Resources, Delta Dental of New Jersey, the Northward Center, Community Food Bank of New Jersey, United Airlines, and by Kessler Foundation. Promotional support provided by AM 970 The Answer and by NJ.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.